Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 38 of Tactical Crouch, competitive Overwatch podcast that is competitive and a podcast. We record Tuesdays, and we're doing it today. I didn't think that we would actually do one today. I figured one of us would have something come up. It's kind of just felt like one of those weeks. You ever just have one of those weeks? It's like, there's no way this week is going to go to plan.
Oh,
Well,
I have this with customers in my job all the time. You know, when they don't call in early enough, it's like they still have to pay and I get paid. So I'm always like, it feels like this person hasn't been missing for a while. I'm sure he's missing.
So, you sure you're not sick today?
Right. Yeah. So anyways, thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. Of course, I am KickedTripod. With me, two smartest brains in Overwatch, Yiska and Volamel. So good to see you guys. You're both looking great. Beard's coming in really nice, Yiska. Joe.
Thanks.
Shave it, man. I've actually been working on mine for a while.
Not the first time I've been told that.
I'm just kidding. I've actually been working on mine. This is like 2.5 weeks. It's way more full in like a mirror now when I have like really shiny lights.
Shiny lights, yeah. I mean, it looks solid, yeah. Yeah,
not bad. It's not like that guy doesn't have facial hair. He just doesn't have good facial hair. So yeah. Yes. Anyways, welcome to episode 38, guys. We really appreciate you all being here. Housekeeping really quick before we get started. We've actually got a little bit of an update, and it's something that we've been talking about over the past couple of, honestly, months at this point. We've actually officially launched our Patreon, which, you know, for me is, it's a big poggers. It's a big deal. So a lot of people have kind of like asked over the weeks and been kind of like, hey, like, how do I support the show? I don't watch on Twitch. I don't sub, whatever. Like, that's just not my way I want to support. And I would love some like ways to support differently. And Patreon is something that I've done with my podcast over the years that have been really great and been a really great way to support creators. Because number one, Twitch takes like a huge chunk of whatever like you sub there, like they do. And we love like subs, prime subs, all that. Anything is anything. But like you're talking, you know, with Twitch, you get about 50% of it. Whereas with Patreon, you get about 90%. So it's a little bit better there. But it also is really great because we can have like different tiers and perks based on like how you want to support. So we're going to take, I promise, just 2 minutes to talk really quickly about the perks and some of the goals and stuff with this, because we want to thank you guys as you support the show. And so in order to do that, we set up some tiers. So $1 a month. These are all monthly, not per episode or anything like that. So it's 1 month, $1 per month. If you subscribe for $1 a month, you're a patron, and we're going to thank you at the end of the show. We're just going to say, hey, thank you. You're also going to get a special role in Yiska's Discord that is much more active than the Overwatch League daily one. We're probably going to scrap that one. And we're going to just move on over to Yiska because that's where all the cool people are anyway. You're going to have your own special role there, and that's going to be great. For $5 a month, you'll also get preferred access to asking questions for the show. So we'll give you a dedicated channel to post questions in. And you will also get VIP'd. No, that's the next one. Sorry. But yeah, so you'll get those questions answered in priority there. Number 10. Or sorry, $10 a month, and you will actually get priority access to our game night. So $10 players will get to play on game night. We're going to do like Jackbox games, probably some Overwatch custom games. I'm going to whip up on these guys and on a paintball. It's going to be glorious.
I'm so bad at on a paintball. It's not funny.
So yeah, so we're going to do that a little bit. And then of course, the last one is Master, $25 or more a month. And you're actually a producer of the show. So at this level of support, your name is actually going to be shown at the end of the show. And you'll also, this is actually, I didn't get this quite right. I messed up on the formatting. The Grandmaster and producer, for $25 or more a month, you're a producer of the show. We thank you every show on top of the other perks. And you'll get VIP'd in the KickedTripod stream. So you'll have that little diamond next to it. I need to delete that other one. So Don't pledge for master. Anyways, cool. That's it. Thank you guys. We've already had 6 people sign up, and we really appreciate that because we didn't even announce it yet. They just found it. They just found it, and we'll definitely be thanking you at the end of the show. So, all right, that's it. We didn't go too long, right? That was okay?
No.
Oh, yeah. Patreon.com/tacticalcrouch is where you can find that. Patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Sign up, see the perks, hang out with us. We'd love to get to know you more. And yeah. All right, here we go to the news. Joe, did you hear about the Florida Mayhem?
Sadly.
Did you hear what the weather's like in Florida right now?
I heard it was very rainy. I assumed that was going to just be the rest of their season, but unfortunately they signed Rain from O2 Blast, who I didn't quite care for at Pacific Showdown. Didn't think he was all that bad comparably, but there again, there wasn't too many talented main supports there, so it was, shiniest turd. It's just, it baffles me how they just dodge all the good players. It's like they're allergic.
When it's poor, it rains. That's the problem.
It's just shocking, man.
When it rains. Did you make that up on the spot, or has that been said before by someone
I made
smarter
that
than
up
you?
yesterday, but
okay.
First, he wanted to tweet it, and then I'm like, no, dude, that's the quote tweet. You have to quote the announcement with that. That's perfect. That would have been a fat
when
Twitter.
It's poor, that's got to be the show title. When
it's so
poor, it rains. All right, I love it.
And that's the thing. Like, it's weird because I haven't necessarily I haven't caught up too heavily with watching VODs, and again, Rain never stuck out to me. So it's surprising that they would sign Chris at the beginning of the season and then look to replace him or add somebody to the bench in stage 3. We're already like halfway done with a season, and now you're starting to get your movement in. Like, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
And you still have like very, very obvious replaceable players on your team. I was looking through the Reddit thread the other day of the announcement, and I think the most upvoted comment was like, there's still a man named Zephyr on this team. It's true. I have to agree with Reddit for once. Zephyr's still on this team, and you're replacing, but not replacing, but you're adding to your main support lineup. And I haven't necessarily watched a Florida Mayhem game too terribly in depth, but I don't think Chris has been all that terrible. Has he?
No, he's certainly not a problem. The main problem in that team.
No.
I also, talk. I don't think Rain should play over Chris, and that is not necessarily only my opinion, but the opinion that that others have shared with me, and that Rain is honestly a pretty poor player, and there's a chance he wasn't even the best main supporter on his own contenders team. So. Yeah, once again, very uninspired to me.
Like, let's look at this O2 team. There's some genuine talents on this team. Arrow, rumored to be going to this team. What's going on with that? Krong, great flex tank. Absolute fantastic player. Showed off during not during the finals, but during Showdown. Showed off during Korean Contenders playoffs. Is very flexible. Love that signing if they wanted to go for it.
Is 20.
Is of age. Myunbong. Great flex support. Hagupyeon. Byram. Don't inspire a ton of faith. That's a role that is going to carry you even if the season is bust. That's an investment that you could make. That's somebody you could probably pay a little bit of money to, and hey, wouldn't be a bad idea.
Do you know what you just did though, Joe?
What's that?
You just walked in, you got $5,000 in your pocket. You just walked into a Lexus dealership. It's just like, that's a really nice car. Mayhem only have $5,000 in their pocket. I'm sorry. Like, there's no other way you make these choices. They've proven pretty.
You think it's a budget thing?
Again, dude, the analogy is, though, you have $5,000 in the pocket. You can't buy the Lexus. You need a car to get to work, so you buy a motorized wheelchair. Like, come on, man.
Well,
you can get a better $5,000 car that's used somewhere. Maybe look at among Overwatch League players.
Let's just also say this. So, like, let's just take this. We're gonna take this metaphor to the
absurdity.
max. So, you've got $5,000 to buy a car.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy an American car, and in that price range, is probably better than any other foreign car creator that there is in the $5,000 price range. But you're like, nah, man, I heard about those Maseratis, so I'm gonna buy an Italian car. And you buy like the cheapest, I don't know, what's like
you got it from auction and somebody crashed it
not
into
even a
like,
Maserati. It's just like, what Maserati is that Italian? Is that an Italian car? Let's just say it is. So then you find the cheapest Italian car maker that you can, and say like, well, it's in the same country that Maseratis are made. So we're gonna sign a bunch of these, and hopefully, like, end up signing a Maserati, I guess. Like, it's just
sooner or later.
It's just like this arbitrary thing of like, we're gonna go for an all Korean roster. Woo! I'm excited. That's great. Koreans at the top level are generally better, if not completely better, than a lot of the Overwatch talent in the West. Boom. Great. Let's do it. Let's go. And then they start going to these trials, borderline open division players, signing them just because they're from or speak Korean. And I'm sorry. I'm like, I don't get it.
And then it's like, okay, guys, when do I get my car? Can I drive my car next weekend? Nah, dude. That takes 3 months. You gotta wait.
Yeah. And so and that car over there actually boosted. So you can maybe use him in a few weeks. It's
got illegal mods on it. We have to, go through inspections,
illegal window
emissions
tint.
tests.
Still got the boot on
Neon
it. We got to
lights.
take it off. It's going to take a while. Bunch of red tape.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So anyways, for analogies like that or more, patreon.com/tactical. Just kidding. Yeah. So anyways, man, I just like, I
don't want to poop on the Mayhem, man. I don't want to poop on these teams.
It's what the Outlaws are for. And now they're doing good.
Look at how good they're doing. I'm happy for them. I don't have to poop on them this week. I don't want to poop on the Mayhem fans. They're loud. They can be obnoxious 100%. There's a lot of sports teams that are like that too, but I don't want to just go in and be like, dang, guys, your team sucks. Am I right? But I have to, because they just are just doing so poorly, and now they're not. So I don't have to poop on them. The Florida Mayhem, though, consistently poop. Please don't poop. Actually, no.
You have to poop.
You need to eat your fiber.
Poop like once, maybe twice a day, I believe is healthy. So
I think so.
What is it in Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Jake Peralta's like, I haven't pooped in 4 days. I'm as healthy as ever.
I have a friend that told me that. I'm like, what do you eat? And he's like, pizza?
My body doesn't need to dispose of the waste because it's so healthy.
During military service, I never went during the week. I waited till I came home.
Really? Oh, you were one of those people that like, I can't poop in public.
At work, I was the same way. Now this is my work, so it's right there. The executive bathrooms are right over there between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. until the wife comes. You can leave the door wide open. Blast music from the other room. I can actually look and see the screen from the toilet over there. So things you didn't want to know.
A wireless controller and just have that game that you play on the toilet. Just set up.
Yeah, can
right
play
there.
Underlords.
Just pull out the controller. There you go.
You can, yeah.
We're literally talking about taking a shit, avoiding the topic of Florida Mayhem. That's how bad it is at this point.
Honestly, bathrooms and Florida Mayhem, name something that has more in common with each other. Like that's about how closely related they are.
Dr. Disrespect in bathrooms.
Hey,
dude, man, he owned that though, didn't he?
Did he? I haven't seen any updates.
His update, like he did his recap and all that kind of stuff, and it was funny. It was funny. I enjoyed it. That IRL stream was hilarious. I don't care how many rules he broke. I mean, I do care.
Yeah, you shouldn't be filming in public, but like everything else outside of that was very funny.
Like, yeah, fun. So, anyways, Florida Mayhem, sign Rain from O2 Blast. We're not impressed. Next, All right, Taimou on Twitter. This has since been deleted, but I still want to talk about it. There is nothing more depressing than not even being given the chance to do what you're supposed to be doing. Deletes it. We've seen
that is depressing.
We've seen tweets from Taimou over the past, I don't know, forever. But when he's not playing, he doesn't feel great about it. And to be fair, I'm not sure that there's any Overwatch League player who does feel great about not playing.
Yeah.
But there is this respect of, aspect of Taimou before an envious, kind of being the hot shit. Like a lot of people really looked at. We still probably do analyze Widowmaker stuff based on Taimou on what's the one in Mexico? Dorado, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's Mexico, South America.
I think so.
Somewhere. Anyways, it's we did see a Taimou at one point that fragged off a Taimou who came onto a team that was supposed to be a support player and was given a chance. I think it was Internet Hulk who kind of gave him a chance to make the switch over to DPS, and popped off and was widely regarded. He was well respected. I won't say he was like the best in the world or anything, but he was well respected for his mechanical skill. And now we're at a point where we're seeing a player who just doesn't play. So I understand that that's frustrating, but he's posting about it publicly now. Number one, should Taimou be playing more? I guess is that the first thing we should talk about. Number two, do you like seeing tweets like this, Yiska?
Okay, so so let's assume that Taimou didn't make this tweet, right? And I'm currently in the situation as Dallas Fuel. If I look at the rest of my schedule, it wasn't. I didn't actually realize how dire it was, but there is absolutely a situation where they don't even make play-ins, even though they're 10-8 right now. The rest of their season schedule is very scary to them, right? They likely need at least 2 more wins, probably 3, to feel secure to get into the play-ins. I don't think there's any way they're directly qualifying with the way they're playing right now. So I think it's time to try to figure some stuff out. And Zachary certainly is one of the weaker links in the chain. So I would have maybe tried to have Taimou in, because yes, he is a mechanical player, but he wasn't only a mechanical player. He was also, even during the peaks of Envious, the shot caller for their team. So I assume he has game awareness as well as an understanding of roles that aren't only mechanically demanding. He played Roadhog 1.0, right? To fairly high, or to the highest level, I would say. So
set the standard on Roadhog, yeah.
Yeah, I would say I would try. Now, as for making that tweet, okay, so assuming that not all resources were exhausted, where Taimou literally is like out there begging his coach, please put me in, or worse yet, we've seen this in the past. I'm not saying that happens at Dallas, but where players are exempt from even participating in scrims, where it's like, okay, you don't even have to show up anymore. If it was a situation like this, I sort of understand this tweet now, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that was the situation. I think it was literally like, okay, we want to keep playing with Zachary, because also I think there could be merit to continuing playing Zachary based on the information that the public, or as well as I, am missing. So for instance, maybe one thing could be that it's very apparent to the coaching staff that Zachary has a stage issue. And you can only get rid of this by playing more,
sure,
by having stage experience and whatnot. So you have this player stay in, even though it's getting to the point where you have to ask how much longer does he need to play in order to get rid of this. And also maybe anticipating the DPS metas. Now, it is not immediately apparent to me, and I've said this before the season, I honestly was never high on Zachary. I don't think he ever made that squad better than the current players that are on this team. Now, it's interesting to me that IKM did actually pick up the Zarya as well, so I guess that freed up a slot. Then again, I would have tried. Now it gets into the issue that you might have to take disciplinary action where you could have thought about making a switch up, and you cannot budge, I think, on that disagreement that went on Twitter. It wasn't just Twitter. Like, he doubled down on Reddit. I saw Reddit comments where he made that comment. Someone else said, oh yeah, this is just Red tried to interpret it differently, and that was a very charitable reading. By the way, great job, Reddit, on this for once, where someone said, okay, this could be interpreted in a less egregious way. And then Taimou literally came in and said, nope, it's literally about me not being able to play a Brigade over Zachary, even though I've demonstrated at the World Cup for Finland that I can play this role. Now, that didn't sit terribly well with me. I can understand, especially former absolute top players, being a bit salty about not being able to show the world again what they're made of. I think we saw a similar thing with Tivik the week before. So, yeah, it's interesting. I personally... Man, I think I still am not convinced that Taimou is completely washed. That's the thing. I think there was issues with just like the metas they hit. And then, to be fair, even when Widow was the dominating thing, they still didn't play him that much. And it was certainly down to them not playing dive well. But yeah, man, it's not a good spot to be in terms of his career. And while I would have liked to see that experiment, I'm not sure if you can feasibly stand behind this as a head coach now.
So there are a couple things I want to add. Let me take a look here. I just want to make sure I back this up with facts because that's important. Right now, Dallas Fuel are in 9th. They're 10-8. They're definitely doing much better in the inaugural season. You find them in 10th out of 12 and negative 42 map differential, right? Whereas right now, they're right on the cusp of playoffs. They've clearly made improvements.
At this point, yes. And I mean, relatively, they will finish higher than last season, yeah. But my fear is maybe not by much.
I mean, they're 1-3 right now in stage 3, which wasn't great. Stage 2, they finished 5-2, which was great. Stage 1, they finished 4-3. Yeah.
Their first 2 stages were honestly pretty comical in terms of strength of schedule, and now it comes around to them. Like,
I mean, I agree. I think I agree. I think overall it definitely wasn't, and it definitely was less balanced of a schedule too than last year, which is also an important thing to consider. But I don't think that there's a sane person on earth that said that overall the Dallas Fuel have not improved from season 1 to season 2.
That's fair.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, I don't know, man. There's where do you send Taimou, Joe? So if you're ready then to, Taimou still has it, but the Fuel aren't willing to do it. Where does Taimou fit in?
I genuinely don't know. There's really not a roster that I would feel comfortable moving him to, because we haven't seen him in so long and on things that just aren't Widow. We haven't really seen him play a ton of Brigitte. Right, yeah. I guess if he's trying to claim that World Cup showed off his Brigitte, I saw a post by Peak kind of explaining that Brigitte needs to be kind of this decision-making character and have some sort of mechanical bias, and Zachary just isn't filling that role. What's the harm in just giving Taimou scrims? Unless there's another reason that we just don't know, publicly. I have no idea. It's sad that it has to get to this point. I understand that each practice block, each scrim block is very coveted and super important. But I find it very short-sighted to just not play your bench ever. I think that's very strange. there again, I'm not a coach. What do I know? But it's sad that we constantly kind of have to come back to this and wonder, what could have done, what could the team have done more to kind of like help him along? Is it even worth keeping him around? Is it worth just trying to get, sell him off, move him to another team, see if anybody else is interested?
Is he like 24, 25? Is he younger than that?
No, I think he's older even.
25.
Hey. Yep, 25, August 30th, though, so he's coming up on 26. Anyways.
It is depressing. I think that's like the first thing that comes to mind is like, dang, we're not even getting any play time.
There's going to come a day where Profit is either retired or been washed up, and Yiska's going to be in tears on the show, like visibly bawling. So,
because I will put him into the Hall of Fame as the GOAT.
Old guard Overwatch, man. I hate to say it, dude, but they're moving on right now. Taimou is very, very much a part of that. He's very much a part of it from the beginning, and right now he might be on the way out if he can't find the way to get himself on a team that'll let him play. Like I don't think that Taimou ever goes and I hope I'm wrong about this. But I don't think that there's a world where Taimou ever goes to like an academy team and then comes back up and plays for the Overwatch League. And
I guess that's my question is like, I feel like that might happen if 222 lock happens at some point. Like, what do you guys think? Like, not to like kick a dead horse, but is there room for him to play in 222 at all? Do you think? Maybe not even on this roster, but like with that added caveat, like, do you then move him to another team?
Give Roadhog a jetpack, and you've got Taimou playing. Is how I feel about it.
Not even McCree and Widow. I'm still.
Is his scan. Just give him like a good like single shot hit scan.
Even Soldier, his Soldier was very solid back in the day. It was solid
for sure. He always played. Well, he never really played it because a Harry Hook was playing that, right? So
it was like 50-50 most of the time.
But yeah, like I don't doubt he has the mechanical skill left, but we've been playing in metas long enough where those aren't really relevant. And so the question is that healthy for a game where heroes are irrelevant for so long that it can take one of the most, I will say, renowned players. I won't say best players, but one of the most renowned players, and basically make them a footnote in the encyclopedia of Overwatch League in season 2.
No,
like to me, that's not a very healthy game. At all. It's one thing to be like, you know what? We're not playing, I don't know, Tracer anymore. We're playing Sombra, or I don't know, something that's a lot more closely correlated. We're like, like, oh yeah, he's got a great Widowmaker and a McCree. He can play any of those things. Or, you've got Pharah and Genji players tend to kind of overlap a little bit. Like it's really unforgiving when there's not overlap.
They talked about it on Oversight last night where there's not like a clear trajectory path of players.
Don't you ever advertise another podcast on the show again? Do you understand me? I'm just kidding.
Yes, Dad.
I'm just kidding.
Monty had brought up a really good point that there isn't a clear trajectory for players where it's like, okay, great, I'm a Tracer player, this is what I should be working on, this is my tool set that I need to fill out to be one of the top professional players. That kind of recipe isn't defined currently, right? But if we limit Overwatch and we roll lock it, we put 2-2-2 whatever lock we want to put on it, now it gives the players beautiful, I know I need to practice these heroes. Right now, it's, okay, I played Tracer before. Now I have to practice Zarya. That's not something that I have much time on, but it's what's demanded right now. And if I want to keep my job, I have to practice this. And players that have played Zarya are now being rotated in over those players. So it's very strange. Like, I think the best example was like, what do divas need to play? What is a flex tank really? Because in this meta, flex tank also needs to play Sombra. how does that make sense for a player to like intuitively figure that out?
Yeah, it's I once made a video, and I think that still holds very true. There's like a field of research called a special skill, and they look at how specialized top professionals are within their field and how different it is for them to compete under different rule sets. So one thing they looked at is they took the Olympic distances for bow shooting, archery, and then looked at how accurate they are exactly at that meter distance, and then moved the target just a little bit, and the outcomes are ridiculous. Like, these people drop to a mediocre level just by having 2 meters on and off. Like, their special skill is so fine-tuned to this very specific target range. Now, apply this to esports and apply this to Overwatch, and you constantly have to, like, basically start from a completely new point in order to get there. And we will never have, like, truly excellent player, because excellence is specialization, and unless we sort of standardize some of the things. And I agree that we still need changes within the game. I just disagree with the severity of what we've seen, where we turned from an FPS shooter into a speed 3D MOBA in like the matter of a season.
So what I hear you saying here, I'm going to put words in your mouth here, is what you're saying is no more new heroes and no more maps. But you're
no more maps. I'm all there with you. Yeah, no more maps.
I honestly, so here's the thing, right? Like, I don't know, like, so one of my good friends, Trevor May, he's a pitcher for the Minnesota Twins, and I've asked him, I'm like, is baseball, is something baseball that you just like get sick of? Oh, the baseball meta is stale. And he's like, yeah, but I love baseball and it doesn't really matter. And he's like, I still throw the same pitches, I still do the same thing all the time, and at the end of the day, it's way more of a routine than what we deal with in esports. But there's such like a low attention span for esports players. Like, this is boring. Hey, I'm an Apex player now. Oh, Apex isn't the real deal. Hey, Fortnite, I'm back in there. Like, oh, I'm coming back to Overwatch, baby. Like, there's also an aspect of that where I don't know, and this is, I try to not say these types of things because your YouTube comments hurt my feelings, but I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway. There comes a point where, like, I don't know if these professional esports players have the mental, like, dexterity to, like, stick with something all the way through. And it's not all their fault, because when players leave, money leaves from the game, they stop supporting it, leagues stop happening, and they need to, it's this very aggressive cyclical nature where big players come to an esport, people love that esport, you try to nurture it and grow it, and if they don't, they leave, and then the developer stops getting money and stops supporting it. Or if they do, which, I mean, again, define do, right? And honestly, you could say the best way that they've been able to do that is by prize pools, honestly. Like, just keep shelling prize pools into it has been the best way that they've been able to, like, support the what's the word? At least, like, the people think that it's a big deal, because
right.
The international has what, 41 million,
something crazy,
something stupid like that, and you're like, Fortnite's putting $100 million into esports. That was a number from last year, and obviously Overwatch League has hundreds of millions of dollars in the infrastructure there. But it's just kind of vicious. Like,
no, it is. And I think you touch on, like, a really good point that I think you can apply to just gamers in general, because that's kind of what we are at the end of the day. Like, even if you're an esports athlete and you're a pro player, like, you start off as, like, just like a gamer. You downloaded Steam, you played TF2 for fun, like, you casually were into games. And there is this kind of culture of low attention span, and we want more, and crying to the developers and figuring out what needs to change to kind of fall in love with the game again. And sometimes there isn't anything, and you're just broken up, right? And that's okay. You just kind of have to deal with the loss, and that's kind of it's. I definitely know where you're going with like baseball, but there's like nobody you can like. Again, maybe this is more of a question.
It's not like somebody made a baseball clone.
Yeah, it's like who
that all of a sudden the baseball's a wiffle ball, and Joe Mauer is now going to be playing baseball, and Trevor Mayer going to play baseball or wiffle ball, and now we're all playing. We're all talking and about wiffle ball. Like I understand there are so many bad comparisons to that. You also have like the local infrastructure of it all, which is, probably a big deal. You don't stream baseball in the way that you stream games and esports. It's not accessible like that. Like there's so many things. And to my understanding, baseball is very traditional. Like this is baseball, and if you don't like it, it's not even that fun. It's not even that fun of a sport to watch. You go there.
No, it's fun to play. It's terrible to watch.
I loved playing it. I love watching it, but I grew up very competitive baseball player.
Sure.
So and so I know I'm definitely part of that. But ultimately, the best part of it is you go get drunk and eat hot dogs. Like, I don't know. It's basically the closest thing to being a German that we have.
No, we don't do that. We don't do that.
You don't get drunk and eat
exactly
Wiener
what you do.
Schnitzel?
Don't lie.
No, we do watch the games in the stadium. Like, most definitely don't just show up there to get drunk.
I don't.
Also because it's way too expensive and we don't have that much access.
See, that's the problem. It's really cheap here.
What? Hot dogs and
drunk
beer?
and eating hot dogs.
Dude,
yeah.
$1 dome dogs at the Metrodome, 2009.
Whoa.
Every Wednesday. If you're a college student, you can go there. $3 tickets, $1 hot dogs, $1 beers.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
$20 you're getting in, and
your face.
You're hammered by the time you leave.
That's what it's like to be in a city with a team that has a bad baseball team. So they just they subsidize the F out of food to fill the seats. And they're like, you know what?
Full circle. Is there a marketing scheme here with the Florida Mayhem? I know Bud Light is like the proud sponsor, the proud alcohol sponsor of the Overwatch League, guys. There's something here that maybe we should make a deck for this and pitch it. Bare hands, you listening?
Some people in the chat are saying you can't bring alcohol back to seats in a lot of EU countries. So
you can here in Germany though.
Socialism, man. I'm just kidding. It's a joke, chat.
Whoa, we just got political.
It's a joke. Settle down and relax. Let's talk about envy here. Not the way that Joe envies Yiska's shirt right now, but envy as in the player is rumored by OW Beacon, right? Dang it. To be going from the Toronto Defiant to Shanghai. So OW Beacon says Shanghai Dragons have acquired envy from the Toronto Defiant. Usually pretty reliable, as I found, right? Beacon's usually pretty good about these things, especially in the Chinese scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, Shanghai, kind of the anti Florida Mayhem. Both had really crappy teams in season 1.
One improved, one didn't.
Both made major changes to their rosters.
You want to hear a fun fact, John? The Florida Mayhem, career-wise, so season 1 up until now, do not have double-digit wins. They have a total of 8 wins.
The Florida Mayhem.
The Shanghai Dragons have 9.
It's a lucky number in China, isn't it?
I have no idea. Maybe,
is.
hopefully.
Anyways, so the Shanghai Dragons, despite not winning a single game, so what I'm hearing from you is the Shanghai Dragons, despite not winning a single match in season 1, have more match wins than the Florida Mayhem.
In 3 stages, they have more wins than Florida Mayhem career.
Well,
the Paris Eternal are tied, if I remember correctly.
But that's just like crickets for me. I just don't know, like, what are you doing? We thought, didn't we? Like, I mean, Does this fall on bare hands?
I
We got
don't know.
we got to talk about this trade.
Yes.
We can't go back. I'm done talking about Mayhem for the week. For a team that gets so from now on, the number of wins you have in a season is the number of minutes you get dedicated on this podcast per week. So right now we can spend no more.
A Vancouver Titans podcast.
We can spend no more than 8 minutes talking about the Mayhem moving forward until they start winning matches because I can't. I just can't. So anyways, Envy going on to Shanghai from Toronto. Obviously, we just had Baroy on the show 2 episodes ago. Make sure to go check that one out because it was full of insight. But, you know, I would feel like this would be something that was written off by Baroy a little bit. Like there has to be some method to the madness here. So is this a good move, Yiska? What are your knee-jerk reactions on this one?
So if that's true, it's kind of interesting that they were able to get Envy a new team. It makes sense for Shanghai in the sense that they just got rid of Guardian, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to be secure in your roster, and if anything ever happens health-wise or whatever, to have a backup player makes sense. Now, in terms of Envy, I'm not sure if he was promised a starting spot. I probably wouldn't imagine that to be the case. Maybe, I don't know. It's an interesting move if that was actually true. Certainly unexpected to me. I would have maybe even expected him to go to Mayhem more.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was.
I think that's what we wanted.
There, right?
That's what we wanted to happen. That would have made sense.
They've played together before. You know, Florida needs a flex tank. This guy apparently was on the market for a little bit. They were shopping him around.
I need a cha-ching sounder for every time we talk about the Mayhem and a reason why they don't do a smart move, because I do think every time it has to be that. It has to be just cha-ching.
Like, they just avoid them. They're allergic. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words.
Dude, they're buying they only got enough money for this nice wholesome American made $5,000 car.
The thing is, it's like they have Chris and then they get Rain, and they have Hago and then they get Byron. And then they have Zephyr and they could have Envy. And it's like,
for the same price?
Okay, dude. Like,
I don't know.
Do you think you could have Envy
but...
for the same price as Zephyr?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he would have cost. I cannot imagine Toronto is eager to necessarily keep him if they don't plan on playing him because of the hybrid roster system. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure. I don't know, but like in my gut feeling is that they didn't demand ridiculous buyout fees. If they actually did get a buyout fee on a player that now twice has had internal struggles and has been ejected from the team mid-season for simply that, pretty good business move right there. I applaud Jay, but I cannot imagine that being too terribly high. And I think there maybe would have been a possibility. Also, it probably would have been a better move for Toronto to sell to Mayhem, because these guys are not going to be competitive with you this season. Mm-hmm. And the Shanghai Dragons definitely are still within your reach. So
how much money do you think winning Overwatch League nets you as a franchise, as a percentage?
Percentage of your revenue? Or?
Percentage of your revenue.
Not much, dude.
I don't know. Do you think it does at all?
Wait, as a team or
like like a couple of percent, maybe?
No, probably not. Like, most of it should go to the players, right?
So why does it matter if you're trading to somebody who's competing with you?
Because, okay, so in terms of winnings, that's one thing, but you definitely want to be higher up so you acquire more fans, and therefore your bottom line grows, right?
Do you think that there's a strong correlation between a team's win-loss record and their willingness to support their team?
I think so, yeah.
How strong of a correlation would you say? Like, let's say a team, like it's tough to say because this is not a very good word problem. But you have a team who I mean, let's use the Houston Outlaws.
Mm-hmm.
They in stage 1 of season 1, they went to playoffs and were dang close, honestly, on a few things.
Sure.
Mhm.
They played middle of the pack the rest of the season. They then went down to arguably one of, if not the kind of worst overall franchise that wasn't just an actual laughingstock and not playing the same game as everybody else. And now they're back up and they're like, well, actually, they actually might be pretty good. How do you think that is correlated to overall fan base? I don't think it's actually that big of a deal.
I think it's a pretty big deal. It depends on your team, though. So, for instance, if you're from
That's
a
fair, but that also
smaller
is different. But,
city,
yeah,
right? If you're from a smaller city and then you develop this, I mean, okay, for one season, I think the trend is not as big. I can tell you though that German kids are buying Golden State Warrior jerseys now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or like the biggest sports star, like that the jersey that every child like on a soccer plays when I go look is like a Real Madrid, like Cristiano Ronaldo thing from last year, or and then certainly Messi for Barcelona, right? They don't have any connection. They just cheer for the best players. I think in general, also these two players are now definitely bigger brands than their teams they played for, right? So I think if you have a longer legacy, I think you certainly can build your brand on that.
I think you can, but I mean, there's a few things, right? Look at our all-stars.
Mm-hmm.
Pine was an all-star. What the F does Pine have to do with
That's
NYX?
the weird part about Overwatch is that I agree with what Yiska's saying, because we've debated this quite heavily. Success and performance can correlate to like positive marketing, but I also think that like positive marketing and good marketing can kind of make up for the lack of success that your team's having. But in Overwatch, it does feel like it doesn't matter as much that your team is doing well. I mean, look at Shanghai.
I agree. Yeah. I think it matters less that your team is doing well than if your team is doing poorly.
No.
Actually, no. Sorry, other way around. I think it matters more if your team is doing poorly than if it's doing well, unless you're winning. So outside, like 1 and 2, maybe. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like LA Gladiators, I love them to death. They've always kind of been, that upper echelon, but they've never quite touched the brand capital of NYXL. London Spitfire, I think, is another one. I think Vancouver may very well be. I have to wait till the end of the season to kind of see it. I do have some insights to some of the numbers on that, so I can back it up. But it's, it's almost like it's being bad doesn't pay off as much as not, or being good doesn't pay off as much as not being bad.
Yeah.
Which is
I agree with that.
I don't know, I think that's fine overall. But when it comes to making trades, then I would make the argument if you're like, hey, John, you're going to be the head of the marketing for a team. How are you going to market this team? It's not going to be around wins and losses.
No, of course not.
It's going to be around players. It's going to be around the brand vision. It's going to be around the people local to the area. The correlation of people who are fans, like, if you introduce your friend here in San Francisco to the Overwatch League and say San Francisco has a team, what do you think the chances are that they become a fan of San Francisco before any other team? Double? Triple?
Mm-hmm.
Then again, there are global brands that have more fans, or vastly more fans outside the area where they come from than from the area, simply because they have been successful for.
Are they profitable to market though?
I mean, they're massive brands. Yeah.
I because I agree with you, but it's like you can't. I don't know if you can market around making people in whatever city you're in, Germany, fans of the Houston Outlaws. I don't know if I can do that.
I think it should probably be a bigger deal being able to play in playoffs, right? The play-in tournament I expect to be pretty hype. I think that is
And people double down, and all of a sudden
that you want. Yeah.
People double down, and they all of a sudden too, like all of a sudden, people who have never talked about Overwatch League talk about their favorite team and buy T-shirts.
Oh, of course, yeah.
They do, and
it's like playoff season for traditional sports. It's like, oh yeah, I've always been a Pistons fan.
So I'm in San Jose, which is really close to San Francisco now. Golden State Warriors is the San Francisco team, I think, and they were in the
finals
for the NBA. See, again, this is how much I know about it. And I was walking in the mall the other day, and I saw some Golden State Warriors, and I'm like, you know what? That's pretty cool, and I'm here. I might be a part of that. San Jose Sharks are 2 blocks away from me, right over here. They're in the playoffs, and I've been a Minnesota Wild fan my entire life. But whenever the Avalanche, when I was in Denver, were playing well, and whenever the Sharks were playing well, I'm like, it might be kind of cool though to finally have something from a team that wins. Nothing against the Wild, but win a Stanley Cup already, will you? So, anyways, it was a long.
Enough about meat sports.
I don't know what people are getting from this podcast. I don't. But I think we kind of discussed a bigger looming topic here. And I think something that's a large issue in esports is how do franchises stay profitable over what Overwatch League is promising decades worth of competition. And
that's the question.
We're asking the question, is it player based? Is it record based? Is it just brand based? Is it just like, oh, you got the right city, dude? Like, honestly, there are some things, dude. I know the Minnesota Wild know nothing about marketing up till about 5 years ago, but they were still the state of hockey.
Sure.
And some of it you can't market around. You just have to kind of hope that the stars align for your brand, and you have to be willing to accept that. So there's so many different levels and facets to the complexities of what is going to make Overwatch League the first successful
franchise.
I would say decade plus esports franchise to ever exist. I mean, you could argue, StarCraft 2, you could argue made it about a decade. Could argue made about 10 years.
What do you mean by franchise? Because one thing that definitely is around and has been around and will be around, and I would even wager will be around longer than Overwatch, is CSGO or CS.
Just Counter-Strike,
So
that's just Lindy effect.
And I know nothing about Counter-Strike, so that could just be ignorance.
It's the States thing. We just never really got popular.
So my understanding, when did CSGO come out? I thought it was like 2009.
Early 2000s, I think.
No, longer.
Was it longer than that?
It wasn't in the 2000s. CSGO.
But it's kind of the same way that's saying
CSGO, sorry.
Yeah, not Counter-Strike.
Okay. CSGO came 2012, maybe?
Oh, okay. So, I could be totally ignorant on this fact, but I see Counter-Strike in the same way I see Call of Duty, in the sense that there's multiple ones. They not quite as often, like Call of Duty's, there's one every year. But the fundamental gameplay is the same, but there's vast differences between, it's almost like playing WoW Classic it's like playing WoW Battle for Azeroth right now and being like, yeah, I play World of Warcraft. And then, but do you? It's changed so much. And I don't know or understand the differences between the different iterations of CSGO and whatever. So that's ignorance on my part. But my understanding, and again, like Overwatch 2, Overwatch 3, can you upgrade and change the game so minimally that Overwatch League is still a viable product, but enough to where it can keep up with the pace of video games kind of adapting to a market and a player base. And again, totally ignorant on my part. You can shoot me up in the comments on that one.
I would even say since 1.3, so CS 1.3, that was early 2000s probably, maybe. Yeah. The game hasn't changed as radically as Overwatch did in between season 1 and season 2. The main formula is still the same. Yes, there were some changes to movement mechanics as well as aim mechanics.
Guns, different grenades. Like there's little things that are being changed that affect the bigger picture,
but it wasn't
nothing
that
change. Just yeah.
So
it's still very intuitive, like, oh, this is the buy round. This is what maybe the question now becomes, what do I buy in the buy round? What do I buy when I am investing in this round and this round? And, oh, how does this map work in these different iterations? Or what kind of mechanics can I use, like movement-wise? Can I bunny hop? Can I, do some sort of weird crouch glitch? I don't know. I think there was some sort of tomfoolery with some sort of box peeking in CSGO. Like there are little things that change, but intuition kind of has been set from almost 20 years ago, from my understanding.
Yeah. No, they're definitely even core strategies for specific maps that still apply to some point. Like, it's crazy.
Sure. I mean, and honestly, if you bust out, and we've seen this, like Halo, like I want to say Halo is a relevant esport, but it's sadly, it's people are still playing it and having fun. That's great.
Yeah.
You bust out a Halo 1 map in Halo 5 and it plays relatively the same. The weapons shoot relatively the same. You could make very much the argument that that's a 19-year, 2001 is when the original Halo came out. That's a 19-year franchise because people are still playing Hang 'em High.
Exactly.
With the broken zoomed in pistol, right?
Yeah,
like
3-shot headshots.
Yeah. But
you touch on a funny point in terms of history, because when we had Halo, Europe had Counter-Strike. And when we had Halo and they had Counter-Strike, Korea had Brood War. Like that was like the three
Korea
regional...
lost that one, but we lost to EU, I think, overall.
Counter-Strike is just a game that's evergreen. Like the core principles of this game still resonate today. And at this point, you have to apply there's something called the Lindy effect, right? So the Lindy effect basically says the longer something has been around, the less likely it's going to disappear in the next couple of years, or the more likely it is will last just as long, right? So, for instance, chess is not moving away, is it? Mm-hmm. Like, we don't see chess dying in the next 2 years because it has held up for hundreds of years. And I think the same already applies to CS, where it's like, yes, maybe we are not in the peak anymore, but all it needs is one small little injection. The circuits still are all very healthy in terms of viewership. Certainly beat the Overwatch League at the moment on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. We can talk about watch hours. Then again, I would have to ask, do watch hours matter when you're valued against your production and retention and actually what it would generate? And also not just in terms of monetary value, but of value overall for your player base. Are they likely to stick around and whatnot? So honestly, I think the thing is, you do high iterations, so you change up a lot. If your game hasn't found that sweet spot where it becomes a perennial game that makes sense, right? And at that point, you stop changing. And then there's another thing that will never happen in your game if it has any kind of complexity. And I made a Twitter post about this today, just because like things might come close, but then there are breakthroughs. There will never be a Nash equilibrium reached in a high-level game. So Nash equilibrium in game theory is that a game is figured out. Like when we play tic-tac-toe.
From a beautiful mind, Russell Crowe, by the way.
When we play tic-tac-toe, it's very easy for us to have the best strategy and never lose, and we always draw, right? So that
really
state of affairs...
Losing, by the way, at tic-tac-toe. Just wanted to say, you've got a pretty big brain. Lots of wrinkles up here.
High win percentage.
Yeah. High draw percentage, but I don't lose.
There you go.
Never
Nice.
lost.
Nice.
Sorry.
But that's the thing. Like, that strategy is figured out. This will never be the case in all esports. And no, it's also not the case for Overwatch right now, as we've seen with the Houston Outlaws, possibly, because the equilibrium doesn't just concern the optimal state the game is played, but also the idiosyncrasies of the players that are playing this game. So with that, with a human component in mind, and with there being enough depth, enough complexity, we will not reach that point. So in terms of it feeling like we have a stale meta, that is almost inherently social, or it is very bad game design. One of the two.
Yeah, to be fair, though, there's far less variables to introduce to manipulate than something like CSGO. My understanding, right? My understanding with CSGO, the only variables that you really manipulate is the map and the guns you get.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair overall? Like overall, whereas
I think you'd have to mention the economy.
Sure. But like, I think that is sure. Yeah, that's fair. And the strategies that you use, but ultimately the strategies don't change based on, what's the right way to put it? The strategy is the way you shoot your gun doesn't really change between maps and
between maps maybe not, but between players most definitely. Like some players, there's like, this is by the way, if anyone wants to get into
but everybody
CSGO,
has
this is the
guns,
best thing,
right? Like it's not.
Yes,
like,
everyone has guns.
I'm a medic. I'm a tank. Like there's some things to manipulate that slightly.
There's players that will spray, and then there's players who will have ridiculous first point shot accuracy. And currently we have one like with the most ridiculous aim, and he also sprays ever probably to touch CSGO, if not CS, in simple. And like just what he's able to do, that was unthinkable just years beforehand. So there's definitely innovation, because there's sometimes just absolute freaks coming around. That is like, stuff like this is insane. You will not even see people go for the shots he goes for, right? You will go like, that's a bad decision. I'm not making those shots on the regular. He does.
I mean, you could also make so this is like my only off the top like head thing, but think of Poco in season 1.
Sure.
Right, with his diva bombs. Right? Yeah. Those were mostly diva bombs that other players wouldn't take. Probably why he got so many kills about it, right? Like, and eventually people caught up. So I don't want to say that, hey, someone's going to be, but eventually, right? You have this player that's up here and you have a bunch of players down here. One of two things happens. Either these players never get up here. Well, actually 3 things. These players never get up here, up to here, and this player never decreases in their overall skill. It stays like this until that player retires, and they stay good forever. That doesn't happen very often, if ever. The second thing is that something changes and brings the player more in line with the rest of the vast majority of people.
Which brings tears to my eyes.
Yep. Or rip profit. And then the last thing is that everything else changes around the player to bring them up and even the playing field. Like all of a sudden CSGO has shields. Like, that now all of a sudden you can't hit those crazy shots or whatever. So there's, and again, that's a part of like, can you ever have think about it. There are a handful of players in like the NFL that you can, you look at Tom Brady, right? He makes passes that a lot of quarterbacks would never attempt. He deflates balls in a way that no other franchise has the courage to. All those different types of things that makes him, a little bit more, not head and shoulders above, but at least head above everybody else there. And you constantly have this equilibrium, but you also constantly have this Like, you know what? If so-and-so is up here at the top and the people who do this just keep doing that, F you, I'm going to go play Apex. Like, I'm done playing football. I'm going to go play baseball. Like, I'm done playing CSGO. I can't hit that shot, and I'm going to go elsewhere. Deflategate is fake. You know what, Mushu? I agree with you. I don't.
But that's also a little bit of a problem for me in like Overwatch is we don't have these long-lasting transcendental talents a lot, right? Like even Jonak is not the best Zen.
Because we haven't figured out what the game is yet.
Yes, because we keep changing the formula and we can't develop these storylines. Like it's not like think of this. It's not out of the question. Are you confident? Would you give me 10-1 odds that Jonak that there is no way Jonak is not going to be relevant next year? No, there's absolutely a way where this is possible. Mainly, for instance, if Overwatch was to go into a meta where there's only main support and we're playing triple DPS, that is absolutely within the possible range of possibilities, and it's probably not lower than 10%. So with that in case, like how do you build up these big brand players? Like, you know, there was this rumor floating around that they had this talk at a meeting, at a marketing meeting or something. Like, why do we not have Conor McGregor? One, your game requires ridiculous practice where people can't develop any sort of personality. Obviously a joke. And you don't have a game that allows players to shine that way. And you have a game that changes so constantly, so people cannot attach to that specific part of excellence, and people will constantly catch up. Now, a part of this is also that Overwatch is a young game. So while we're figuring out new parts of this game, there's going to be iterations just naturally, if we never change anything about the game, where we learn new things about the game that then is like a dominant type. And then that selects for that archetype to come through the contender system and then also hit Overwatch League, right? Mm-hmm. But as long as we keep messing with this formula, are you going to attach to these long-lasting storylines? It's just not possible, right? So, like, as long as we keep making these sweeping changes, I think personally, I was one of the advocates for 222, for instance.
Yeah,
that thing needs to stick around for a long time. Then, no.
Yeah, we can't just re-up and say, you know what, 222 wasn't the right fix, guys. We're gonna go with bans. We're just gonna do that instead this season. See if that works. Like, this has to be it. Like, I just was thinking about like League of Legends, and I'm like, well, I mean, like mid laners are pretty popular, right? Like everybody knows like Faker and Bjergsen. Like those are like just transcendental talents that just people in esports know. If you follow a competitive game, you've probably heard somebody talk about Double Lift or Faker, right? And I'm like, well, they have to learn other heroes, right? Like that's pretty interesting. Like it kind of mimics Overwatch, but then I'm like, well, the game just doesn't change. Like the map just doesn't go, you know what? We're just going to get rid of mid lane. Have fun.
Yeah.
No mid lane anymore.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen. Like, yeah, they're like they tweak the dragon and then they add like a Baron monster, and like that definitely changes the game to keep it fresh and keep things interesting. But there's nothing just like broad and sweeping. And maybe that's just my ignorance. Maybe I'm not putting as much emphasis on the dragon changes. It probably.
Here's the thing. Here's a challenge for everyone watching this. Give me a clear top three player from last year that is still a top 3 player now. And you will quickly realize that the only names you could feasibly name is, what do you know, the one role that didn't change, off-tank. Off-tank, right? Okay, flex support is a fair shout as well, right? Because Anna, even though Anna came in now, right? But for most of those like top tier flex supports, we are judging them on their 90% diva play rate, right? Sure. So
flex support, flex tank, you mean?
Flex tank, sorry. Yeah. But even like flex support and flex tank, if we go through the list of those, Fury is one of them, right? Meko, Choyoben would have been probably pretty Sid last season. We didn't consider him like nuts.
I mean, he came in pretty late.
Like it gets hard here, right? Other than Fury, even on the roles where too much didn't change. Then on flex support, we have like Jonak. Is he top 3 still? We can argue that. Who else? Where's Spadosin? Where's Nico? Where's Ingod? Gone, dude. Like, even on
You're
those
a buzzkill.
Like, main supports. Where's Neptuno?
You're really pissing me off right now, Yiska.
Where's Ark? Completely gone, right? Main tanks. Gesture, where is he? Where's Fisher? Where's Mano?
I don't
Right?
want to talk about this right now.
But you know who is doing good? The Houston
superstars
Outlaws, right?
Our superstars are dying frequently, dude, and it really hurts.
The
Hopefully
NA
the
superstars.
same thing doesn't happen to the podcast meta next year.
I mean, I don't know.
Everybody's got a podcast now, so you never know. Fair enough. I want to talk about one more thing before we have to get out of here, and we've already gone a little bit long. So the Houston Outlaws obviously not done well in stage 2. Have they won any? Or sorry, so stage 2, yes, they have. Sorry, stage 2 they didn't win any, but in stage 1 they won a couple, right? 1, 2, 3, 3. So they went 3 and 4, and then they went 0 and 7. We had largely written the Houston Outlaws off, and they've come back in stage 3 with vengeance. They have they lost to NYXL 2-3, taking him to 5 maps, which, you know,
I kind of wrote that off. I'm like, hey, you know what? NYXL, they've got an illness. They're trying a new style.
Kryptonite is bad teams. It just is. But yeah, NYXL loses 2-3. They defeat the San Francisco Shock 3-2. And then they sweep Boston, who is slowly kind of losing their spot as a gatekeeping team for Overwatch.
I feel like they're nosediving.
I agree. I'm trying to be generous here. They sweep Boston 4-0. Got to ask you guys, in stage 3, are the Houston Outlaws for real, Joe?
Yes. Like, I am, again, I don't want to poop on these bottom tier teams. Like, I want them to improve, and I am so over the moon that this team has finally got their shit together. Like, pardon my French. There's no French players on this team, at least not yet. You know, this is improvement incarnate. You know, they're playing, you know, Jake's mouse might be double clicking, but they're playing things that fit their style. They're having a little bit more fun with it. And my understanding, my kind of philosophy, if you're enjoying what you're doing, you're probably going to excel at it a little bit more, right? This is these are characters, these are heroes that fit their style. And it's just been a slog to actually get them to the point to realize that, hey, you know what? We could do what Chengdu does. That's something you could feasibly do. I don't know what kind of I don't know what kind of witch's spell they were under that they just like it wasn't clicking with them, that like, well, we have Dante, and you know, Jake's pretty flexible and he's not great
Dante
at, you know,
fills the only
one
hole that the Houston Outlaws ever had.
Like, like you have these flexible players to play these different things. You're beating Vancouver with some sort of cheese strat on Sanctum on what? You're beating Vancouver on Sanctum with some sort of Orisa soldier comp with links, are like, it's written on the wall, and they're just like, I don't have a hat near me, but if I did, I'd put it on my head like Yiska, and it's just like, goats is what we should do, guys. And you just constantly lose. So it never made any sense that you're winning with these off the wall kind of weird strategies, and you're losing with goats, but then you always just go goats. And now they're not. And now they're winning, and they could probably have a 6-1 stage. That's fantastic.
I just want to recall the famous standoff between Monty and Flame.
Oh, it's still going on, by the way.
It's still going on. Yeah. So Monty is all like, you guys suck. Try to do something. You know, like, try to change. You don't have a style. You're not good at anything you try to put out. Change it. Flame's like, nah, bro. You know how easy it is to change styles? You can't. You got to play this certain way, man. Like, that's the way that it goes. And then they change it up, and what happens, Yiska?
I understand both sides to it.
100%.
Sure, they're not wrong.
So, for instance, like, you're the Houston Outlaws. You have the belief that last season you screwed yourself out of playoffs yourself by Like, if you look at the match record, also the scheduling was as biased as it could have been last season in terms of which teams they dodged. They dodged, I think, Shanghai Dragons and Florida. That's certainly, like, when you think, okay, they're one game off from playoffs, that is certainly a big thing. Not winning those map 5s. You got to win those map 5s. That's on you, but still, you screw yourself out of doing that against Philly. If you won one of those, you would have went to playoffs. So you're in that mindset where, like, you know, there were 2 teams that just snuck into playoffs and they actually got into the finals. So we could have done that, right? So, okay, you enter this season and you're like, okay, we can hang with the big dogs. So we're playing GOATs. We want to play the optimal meta composition. And for players like this, right, to accept that it isn't like that, you cannot out-execute people on this specific meta comp is a realization. And that is also what Jake mentioned, what it means to them as competitors. Now, when they did switch it up, I made this tweet that I hope they realize that this is not a downfall for them personally. That this is not dodging, like, trying to out-execute people on this established meta comp. This is trying to find their own tune and, like, honing their own idiosyncrasies, like their own talents, in a way where that is beautiful to watch. It's highly entertaining to watch, also for a large chunk of people. And it also suits your style much more than the meta composition did. Now, if you can reinvent yourself in that way, or really just find within yourself what also worked last season with the addition of player who has proven to be a very good Sombra, then that is, like, great. My problem is I think with more insight and also with being more receptive to esports history, these players, they could have been in a way better position than they are right now in order to get playoffs. Because I wrote this article, how it is still possible for them. They have a pretty easy schedule. But, like, getting into play-ins would have been so much easier with just 2 wins from stage 2, which they absolutely could have gotten with not forcing GOATs all that often. Now, what I will say is the tweet that Jake meant in terms of, like, okay, on Rialto, on Eichenwald, I always forget the third map. You cannot run anything but GOATs. And people who say this don't have a professional understanding of Overwatch. One, I think that is completely missing the tone. But I will say, this has not been disproven. They were hammered by Shock playing different compositions on those specific maps. So that comment still isn't disproven. And
so real fast, I think the nuance there is that I think he's talking about specific points on those maps. So, like, Rialto, I think in general is very much a GOAT's favorite map, but on Eichenwald in particular, I think point A, we're seeing a lot of variability, we're seeing a lot of flexibility.
Yeah,
but on B and C, that's when you see a lot of the GOAT swap up. So to his credit, I don't think you can fit all that in a tweet, but I think that's what he means.
Yeah.
But I also think, too, though, that it also depends on the team that you're playing against. Like, yes, you're not going to play against a Titans team or a Shock team and win them and beat them, but you might against a Boston team. Some of those 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams, you might. You honestly might. I don't agree with what Jake said there, and I do think that I probably need to do a tad more research before I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, is I would be very surprised to find out that there's not empirical evidence that that you can beat a team, a GOATs team, I mean, like the 6 through 10 range, not playing GOATs on these critical points.
Yeah, you probably could. I guess it's a measure of difficulty. Which is harder, beating a bad team in the mirror, or beating a bad team fighting against the map, if that makes sense. Like, I guess that would be the question.
Anyways,
hard to tell.
So, Joe, you said that you think the Outlaws are real.
Yeah.
Yiska, do you think the Outlaws are real? You think that they're real contenders here in Stage 3, that they're going to be a team that we're going to see, let's just even say this, in playoffs and competing well in playoffs here in Stage 3?
Yes. I think for Stage 3, just looking at the schedule, man, that is honestly pretty
let's see.
a cakewalk.
Let's go through this. Paris on Thursday.
That's
Florida
very
on Sunday.
important for this season, by the way.
Yeah, like wins here are you need to get play-ins, and this ending 6-1 would be fantastic for them this stage.
Paris and then
they start Paris
Florida.
and Paris
So
on Thursday, Florida on Sunday. Then next week on
So that's
Friday
4 and
they
3.
play.
So already, as long as they don't like 3-2 both of those, they should be in.
Yeah.
Then they play Washington, then they play Toronto, and that's their stage.
Watching Toronto is already what they needed. Like,
those are 4 very easy wins for them.
Yeah.
Is Toronto an easy win for them?
Yes.
Yes, at this point, yeah.
Do
Sadly.
not
Alright.
like. I think Toronto's position, and again, said this before. I think they're postured well for the long haul. I think we're getting, a little bit closer towards that finish line, but overall, I think this was like a trying to figure it out season for Toronto, and hopefully by 2020 they'll have a better idea.
Look,
hopefully by maybe stage 4.
I'm just going to make a statement to make things interesting here. I don't think that the Outlaws beat Toronto.
and I think, and I keep it 100 with you here, I think Toronto is in the same tier as Washington Justice and Florida Mayhem right now.
All right.
Yeah.
And it hurts, dude.
Yeah, I don't want them to be.
I respect your stupid opinion. No, just kidding. No, I'm the idiot here. Let's be real. So that's fair, right? We've seen Toronto. I mean, man, I don't know. Like, overall, I think I kind of consider them at our expectations. I don't put them at 20. I think overall, I still put them like 12 to 15. And I think that's where we had them initially. Like they're kind of at that expectation, but they aren't trending up right now. Yeah. But I'm just not ready. I'm not ready to commit to the Outlaws. You know me. I don't like to snap on teams like that.
No. There is something in me that absolutely believes that Outlaws could go from like winning against the Shock and losing against the Justice. I think they have that element within them. I think it is possible. So, it would be very sad.
It would be very depressing.
If there is this type of hope for the Houston Outlaws to go from arguably the worst team in the league or one of the worst teams in season 2, bottom 2 for sure, to one of the best teams in the league over a pretty, I don't know, like how big of a, do you consider this a big meta shift between 2 and 3?
Not really.
I cannot say yet.
I
cannot say.
Right, but I can't say like, oh man, the meta's changed so much, everything's so different. But
no.
If there's hope for that, like, is there hope for Justice? Is there hope for Mayhem? Because I'm sure if you're gonna make me go back, I'm sure I can find some very damning evidence of all 3 of us saying that give up on the Outlaws.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So at that point, which team is below? Maybe the Mayhem. I think Mayhem is the only team that I could say that I would doubt to do well as like a playoff contending team. Less than the Outlaws. Maybe the Justice. Probably. No,
I think the Justice are probably the worst team in the league. Like, I don't see a world where they just kind of get better. Right. Like, I could see maybe Mayhem doing something. I don't know. Maybe it's Widow. Maybe it's playing BQB
doing
on Sombra.
Something. Like eventually, like we can't account for all the variables, but we can mostly account for when variables don't change, except for in the case of the Houston Outlaws.
Yeah,
nothing's changed, and all of a sudden we've got a team that goes to map 5 with NYXL, defeats and that's the San Francisco Shock.
And that's the beauty of like meta, is that nothing has to change. And things can change. Like, we're seeing more Sombra. We're seeing more teams play different stuff because I think they're finally realizing, hey, the amount of time we're investing into this one thing isn't paying out. There's increasing diminishing returns on how much practice we put into this. What if we did something else? Try to catch people off guard, play towards, a certain player, whether it's Blase on Doomfist or Eileen on Doomfist or Ameng on, Wrecking Ball. You're seeing a shift without gameplay changes, which I think is awesome. I love that so much. I want to see more of that.
Is this what you expect to see all future franchises of the Overwatch League being owned by the Immortals to change?
I wanted to actually bring that up. Funny you mentioned that. Back when we were talking about like the franchise system and how that works, we've now seen the first team to sell their franchise, correct? Optic has and Infinite Esports have sold.
Sell in the same way that I sell my house after I don't make payments off of it for 2 years.
Right.
Sell.
Fair enough. But technically they sold.
Haven't
Not
taken
really,
from
but
them. Yes.
Sure. Who do you think is the first franchise to move cities?
Is that even possible?
I would bet money, a good amount of money, that it is stated in the Overwatch League franchise contract that you need to stay there for a minimum number of years, and I'm going to say that number is 5.
Sure. But who do you think after that 5-year number is up? Okay. Just spitball it. I don't there's obviously no even. Do you really see the Washington fan base coming out in droves to come support the Justice? I don't.
I would say an LA team.
Depends.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That does make sense. That, you don't want the overlap. There's so much density in California. Maybe you go to like Colorado, a Midwest
Minnesota
team, Chicago. Sure.
Yeah, I don't think any of the internet, maybe one of the Chinese teams.
Oh yeah, that's maybe a bit bad. Yeah.
There's a lot going on there.
I would say I just looked, like, it's a weak barometer, right? But I looked at the bits that were spent on the Twitch channel for specific teams. Guangzhou dead last.
Oh really?
Dead last. Like, okay, not super like behind the second one, but still, Atlanta Rain has 10 times as much bits spent on them than
Where are Paris Eternal on that? Because they
not that low.
They
gotta be pretty high.
Yeah, because they have the anal one. They have the one that says like "Go Anal" or whatever.
It does
between
look,
the two that you use, yeah.
Like very suggestive.
So Atlanta Rain by far the
which is shocking to me. Like, maybe this is like me not understanding traditional sports, but like, do like the Falcons have like a?
It was the last memer in Overwatch League, dude.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like buying David pins in a David and Goliath match, because that's what Atlanta eventually does, right? Is they just play well and make fun games against good teams.
The blue show.
So Paris is at 9.
It's pretty respectable.
Yep.
You're basically, like the sole EU team. You could definitely the London team, but
create a correlation between the teams. See how strong the correlation between a team's performance and the number of people who
the bits.
Yeah. But what you're right about is the worst teams have the least bits spent. Like Guangzhou last, Florida, Washington, Boston, Valiant, Toronto. Like that's from behind, right? That's pretty much the table.
I could honestly see, don't hate me for this one, I could honestly see Toronto not having a team.
Oh, really?
Not having a what?
A team? You think they move?
Yeah, so, I mean, nothing that I can share, but just suffice it to say, it would be frustrating for any team to be one of the top in the league and to not be where you want to from merch and views and everything else, despite being so good. And despite basically showing out for what insiders, and I'll say insiders as fans who don't make content but claim to know a lot about Overwatch, said that team is going to be the number one team from like a viable marketing.
Which team are we talking about?
Toronto.
Toronto?
Oh wait, no, Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Sorry.
Okay,
oh my God. Yeah, Vancouver. Sorry, not Toronto.
That makes way more sense.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Vancouver. It's all Canada. It's the same thing. There's like 3 miles of it. So yeah, it's all the same. It's not big at all. So Vancouver. Sorry, I need to rephrase that. I could see Vancouver not having it. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see them. Yeah, I could see them moving. That would probably be a better fit for them if they move somewhere like.
By the way, this is obviously going to be clipped out of context where we establish that is totally possible to switch cities like as far as.
Of course, yeah. This is just a complete speculation. Like looking at traditional sports and seeing like the crazy movement and what is it? The Rams kind of have moved around a lot in the NFL.
I would bet somebody $100 though, as soon as the day that contract opens up.
Mm-hmm.
Within 6 months, at least one franchise moves within the within the original 2 years.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got to get out of here. How's that sound? Let's get out.
Sound like a plan.
That was fun. Thanks for hanging out, guys. It was a good show. And we didn't discuss anything, but upcoming matches for this week you might want to pay attention to: Spitfire versus NYXL, Spark versus Dynasty, and Chengdu versus Dallas Fuel. So some interesting ones there with some interesting implications for playoffs and just, fun matches to watch overall. So make sure to tune in to Overwatch League this week because it should be pretty good. We're going to change up the end of the show a little bit. So with the launch of our Patreon, we definitely do want to thank those who sign up to be patrons of the show. Joe, what do you got for us, man?
So for our lovely, lovely, beautiful, great eyebrow having, just genuinely gorgeous people.
Yeah,
we've got little Bo P coming in hot with the Patron, Patron, whatever you want to call it.
Definitely
first,
Patron.
Last. Whatever. I'll drink you. You can clip that. Joseph C. Thank you. I see you out there sharing the names. Joe Brothers. Nathan P. Why couldn't you be a Joe? You gotta ask your parents. Savvy. I think that's how you say it. That's okay though if it's not, because I love you and you have great eyebrows. And Sham Man. I don't actually know if that's how you say it, but I've spoken with him a lot and consider.
He's the man.
Shaman. Shamoon.
Goes, is Shaman the man? You say for Shaman.
For Shaman.
Cool.
Holding it down on Reddit. Good friend of mine. Thank you for supporting the show. Everybody, we love you. Come in for a big hug.
Love you. Patreon.com/tactical.
Definitely support the show.
Tactical.
And you can be on my cringy list of people, I think.
Yeah, so that's going to be a thing now. So, again, thank you to all those patrons. If you want to support the show, we just launched it this week. But one of the best ways to do that, besides supporting on Twitch, is supporting on Patreon. We've got some really cool perks. We hope that you enjoy them. Thank you to all those patrons. You can find out more at patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Let's talk about iTunes reviews. This is something we haven't done before. We had 5-star iTunes reviews. We're going to go back a little bit, but we do have some, don't we, Yiska?
Have fun with these names.
Do you have?
It's in the.
Yeah, I'll handle it because this guy's just not prepared.
Sorry.
Yiska, I gave you the thing. I said, can you do this?
Wait, when did you give me the thing?
It's in the show notes.
He's an absolute
It's down
wreck.
in the closing thing for the show notes. This is not.
It's all right. I got it. Leaf X Leaf. I love you. Yiska, I don't know about him. He went to go get cigarettes, never came back, right? It is what it is. Urkel 81.
Oh, that's the show I watched a lot.
Is your first name Steven? Because Steve Urkel. Definitely. Yes. Shout outs to you.
You also need to be born in 81 to still appreciate that name.
Exactly. Urkel 81, thank you so much for leaving a 5-star iTunes review. Traumaton? Traumaton? Hashtag 1313. Is that right? Am I reading wrong? Dyslexic?
Traumatron.
Hello? Traumatron. Like a trauma automaton, right? Yeah? see where you're
Sounds
going
like
with
you
it.
had trauma with something.
Oh, minor stroke while trying to pronounce that 100%. 13, that's a pretty unlucky number. It looks like it's from Discord. Maybe try to be like 13-12, maybe like 13 something else. But thank you for supporting the show. We love you very much. Haste the Hero, nice. Sounds like a post-hardcore band that I might see a t-shirt in Hot Topic. So Haste the Hero. Hopefully you're hitting those genty guitar riffs. So thank you very much for supporting the show. And from the UK, we've got Covey9. Sounds like Coney Dogs, Coney Island.
Wow.
Love me some of that.
2012.
Not going there.
The good news is we're not going to have 12 of these every week. So
We should have 12 of them every week. 100%. If everybody loves the show and wants me to, butcher and roast their names, you should definitely sign up with the most egregious names possible. I'm looking at you, Butt Pounder 420. Where you at?
that was one that I left. It was just from one of my ults.
Poop Feast 69. Hello? Anybody?
Feast.
Come on.
Oh man.
Support the show, leave a funny name, and you get to have one of us read it. It's great. As long as it's not, there's a line.
Yeah.
You got to watch that line.
There's a line. It's not.
Be goofy. Don't be racist.
It's pretty. It's a pretty low bar.
Yes.
It's a pretty low bar if you've listened to this podcast ever. But I will say this. So somebody had asked in chat, Fod said, why are iTunes reviews even a thing? I think that's a great overall. Like, why does it matter that you get iTunes reviews? Besides, we like the occasional pat on the back. But it actually does factor heavily into how people can find your show. So, like, the more reviews it has, if someone types in Overwatch, the more people find Tactical Crouch rather than The Payload, which is a show that I used to do that hasn't done episodes in over a year.
Be very difficult to find that.
But it's still number 4 because of how many iTunes reviews it has.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's important for iTunes reviews. So,
think of it like a Reddit thread. If you get a lot of comments on your Reddit thread, it goes up, right? A lot of activation. You're interacting with people. It shows the algorithm that you guys like the show. Go say hi, make a funny account, and we'll get to read it. And John will laugh at how poorly I mispronounced Traumaton.
Traumaton. 1 tree. All right.
We
let's
love
get out
you.
of here. Oh man. That's a S way to sort out content though. Is it not the best way to find content on
For
Amazon?
some people it is. Some people it is.
I think that's the first, every time I look at a podcast, if I'm like wanting to learn on, so like I'm getting into Underlords, the first thing I do is I type in Underlords in podcasts. And then I immediately look at 5-star reviews, or I look at number 1, how many reviews they have overall, and number 2, how many of them are 5 stars. And then I go read through the recent ones to see if they've gone downhill recently. I'm probably a little bit biased, but I mean, how else do you? And to be fair, it's not the only thing that matters. Like the overall downloads matter. If someone has 50,000 downloads in a week and someone has 500, but the 500 one has like 3 less iTunes review or 3 more iTunes reviews, the 50,000 one's still going to be first. Anyways,
that's also how I buy my stuff on Amazon. I just go like, okay, so 5-star, and then we go to the comments and see if it's some Indian bot that's posting in there broken German. Like, I like very much. And then if that's the case, okay, fake ratings, next product. And then look for the good ratings, and that's how I find my products.
Yep.
Because I trust the people and not the nosy experts.
Yeah, and it's not totally just 5-star reviews, guys. Like there's an argument going on in Twitch, and it's like, why would they do that? Why would you just make a bunch? And honestly, number 1, people do. It's the same reason why people spoof Amazon and iTunes reviews for apps.
You'd be surprised. I too, when I first got into content creation, didn't think that any of this stuff mattered. I 100% will tell you it does like vastly more than you would expect.
Anyways,
it's not intuitive at all.
That's
not
enough
intuitive.
hot takes. That's enough hot takes, chat. I'm glad how you guys were all like respectful and having these really like respectful conversations about Overwatch League. And as soon as we started talking about iTunes review sorting, you're like
the tables just
little
flipped,
demons. Just little demons. Anyways, let's get out of here. Before we do, make sure to support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Support us by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. search for Tactical Crouch, tap the 5-star button, write a nice little comment. We'll say your name on the show the next week. That's going to do it for us, though. Individual shout-outs for the week, and where can people find you? Yiska, what about you, man? What's going on?
Oh, Joe and I just joined up with Upcomer. Yep. So, or for me, my written stuff is all going to be on there. I got an article in the queue that's coming out tomorrow. Definitely will have pretty much every second day I'll have an article up on that site. And I think that's probably as far as I want to extend in terms of Overwatch content at the moment.
Cool. Which site was that?
Upcomer.
Okay, cool.
.com.
Sweet. They have an app.
They do?
Yes.
It's a pretty handy one.
I get push notifications when I publish an article.
Nice. Is that great?
Do you clap a little bit, like a little symbol?
I published this thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I did a thing. Wow. Look.
That's the only reason I'd ever take my elbows off when I'm sitting on the throne. I'm like, okay, what's on it? Oh, that's my article.
Yay!
All right, Joe, what about you, man?
I too have joined Upcomer. It's not the only place I'll be posting content. I think a lot of the long form stuff probably will still be on eSports 7, but just another website you can pay attention to for all of my content, jargon and nonsense. I think probably towards the end of today, I'm going to try and get out a theoretical piece. I'm adapting a YouTube series that did quite well into written content. We're going to be looking at alternate Overwatch history. We're going to see if LW Blue actually played Apex Season 4, what might have happened. And it's a tough one to answer. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Well, as for me, you're going to notice me writing on no websites because websites have brains. The people who run those websites are not idiots. So, but if you want me to write for your website, you're an idiot. But I would still do it. It would be fun. I could probably write some good stuff. I think it would be, if you just don't want it to have any really good content. But yeah, I stream kind of often here at twitch.tv/KickedTripod. You can find me on Twitter at KickedTripod and everywhere KickedTripod, YouTube, KickedTripod, all that kind of stuff. So make sure to follow me there. Tell me how much you hate my takes or whatever. I don't really care anymore. I'm over it. And then, yeah. So as for me, that's it. Let's give you the show info. So the show info, you can find us everywhere at Tactical Crouch, Tactical_Crouch on Twitter, KickedTripod on YouTube and Twitch, and patreon.com/Tactical Crouch now, which is exciting. We've got a game night. We're going to do game nights. It's going to be sweet. What do we say? On a paintball. I'm really good at Jackbox games. I will say that. And drawing games and like guessing games. I'm going to crush you guys.
There's a beautiful Jackbox game where you have to invent something. You have to like scratch it out on like a napkin, like what your invention is. And you have to like make prompts for people. It usually divulges into hilarity. I'll just say that. Yeah, definitely stop by, come hang out. It'll be fun. And I want to see some more creative names. People, I want to have some horrendous ones to call out.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Digging his own grave right here.
Yeah, that's gonna be a great one. Make sure to follow the show everywhere. Thanks for hanging out with us this week, guys. We're gonna be back right after the music for the post show. See you next time. Bye.